Okay. We're just going to wait here a minute for everybody. Happy weekend. Today's Sunday. Beautiful, beautiful Sunday. And it's spring. Yay. I couldn't be more happy. Just so excited. Everything's blooming around here and going kind of crazy. Today, I thought it would be kind of fun to paint. I believe it's April's birth flower, the daffodil. So we're going to be playing with those. And I'm going to show you how to paint those just with some brush strokes. 1 second here. Let me just check out my camera. There we go. And I think I am sideways. So let me turn around, guys. 1 second. I always forget these lives are different than my regular filming. Thank you for bearing with me there. Okay, so we are all set here. Hopefully you can see. Looks like I have a little bit of a shadow here. Let me see if I can get rid of that. Hi, Ambika. There we go. Okay. Hi, Kristen. Oh, Kristen, is this the Kristen that sent me that last book I shared with everybody? That was so cool. Sorry, guys, I'm just trying to get my camera set up here while we're waiting for everybody. Hi, Ghoulish. The paintbrush holder, you know what? Those are just, actually, I think what they're meant for is chopsticks. I just went on Amazon. I can go try and find my link. It came with a set of 4 of them. There was blue, green, yellow, and pink. Isn't that adorable? I thought those were cute too. Hi, Jean Duvall. Good to see everybody here. So today I thought it would be fun. I was just saying, I believe this month's birth flower is daffodil. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of show you an easy way to paint those. The comment stream, you should be able to maybe X out of it. I'm not positive. Yeah, they're cute, aren't they? So I'm using my Paul Rubens. This is their 48 palette. I'm just going to give them a tiny spritz here. Get those softened up. I'm going to be using my 8 brush. And of course, I've got my 2 wells of water, one to wash, one to rinse. You guys know the drill here. And I am using my Artisto paper. This is kind of my spring one. These are some of the past flowers we've got here. Lots of fun things we did. So I want to show you how to do this just with brush strokes. Hi, Virginia from SoCal. That's where we are too. Okay, let me grab my palette here. This is MEEDEN, by the way, as well. I'm going to spray these. I tend to kind of use generally the same color palette. So I'm just going to put that right there. And there we go. All right. First, what I want to do, I think, is just practice some of the brush strokes that I'm going to use. And they're really going to be a play on what you hear me say all the time is that point, press, point. And that's how we're going to do these little daffodils. So just to warm myself up here, I've loaded my brush, but I'm not using the tip in my pigment here. So just getting warmed up, I'm going to paint some nice thin lines here, maybe some wiggles. If you guys want to paint with me here, I'd love it. And some thicker. This is what I go through when I do my lessons as well, just in case you've never taken one with me. And the big one here that I always teach is the compound strokes. So point, press as I apply more pressure. This is used for lots of your leaves, your petals. We're going to use them today for our petals on these gladiolas. And this is kind of a hard one. Point, open that belly, go really slow and watch the belly open. And then as you continue moving towards the right, I'm lifting my brush up so I get that point. So we use this for leaves. If we give it just a slight C curve. Wow, Northern Italy, Maureen, where at exactly? How lucky are you? So to use this compound stroke, which is just a combination of the thin and the thicker stroke, typically for a leaf or anything, we're going to have just a little bit of a C curve. So point, press, point like that. And then you can certainly come in on the other side, point, press, and we can create a little leaf there. So that's a really common brush stroke in case you're not using that quite yet. Point, press, there we go. I'm just gonna play with this. Or you can do a one stroke, point, press. You can make them long and wavy, point, press, like grass. You can make them with a little bit of character, so point, press, and then come back down like this. And now we've got kind of that fun edge there. We just grab a little bit more paint. Here's the other side, point, press. And then I can, so look at that. Isn't that fun? It's kind of like a thick leaf. That might be hard to see because of the glare, pardon me. There we go. You can, I typically, when I do my leaves, we're gonna move on to that gladiola in a minute. I'm gonna show you the gladiola leaf, which is really long and flowy and beautiful. Lombardi, I've never heard of that. Hi, Pamela, that's my daughter's name. Okay, so another leaf, when I do my leaves, many times I will make one, either the end or the bottom of the leaf here, a little bit shorter just for interest. So point, press, something like that with the white space in the middle, one side longer, or maybe the other side longer, point, press, opening the belly like that, and then come around, point, press, and this side is shorter. So I do both, but what I've really been doing a lot of lately is adding, using the side of my brush, some interest here. So let me show you the long gladiola leaves because they are gorgeous. So let's just, and we're gonna paint the gladiolas in just a minute here. But if you have the stem here, which their stems is typically a little thicker, something like that. The leaves, these long, beautiful leaves of the gladiola are going to wrap around a bit, almost like a tulip. So I'm gonna start at the bottom of the base of the stem here and open my brush. I'm applying quite a bit of pressure. See how it's widening out. And then we come up just like that. So that's what we're going to do for our gladiola leaves. If you come from the top down, you can just open up that brush and then bring it into your stem here. We can add a little bit of a lighter color here. I typically will use a darker color at the base. But because our gladiola has so much yellow in the flower, I like to put yellow in my stems as well, just to make it look kind of cool and like they're all coherent and together. So there's a little bit of that. And then we can maybe just those fine lines. That's why it's good to practice all of these. So this is going to be the technique we're going to use. And then I'm just taking a damp brush like this. By the way, while I'm here, if you're in Patreon, I'm doing a whole lesson on, it's called Florography, Florology. It's all about the language of flowers, which I think is really cool. And I'm going to kind of combine it with some color theory. And it just is, you know, the language of flowers, what kind of the meaning of flowers are and how the emotions they invoke in you. So I think that's going to be really cool. We're going to play with some colors and things. And matter of fact, I think yellow means joy and warmth and hope. So I thought that was kind of cool. All right, well, let's get started. I'm going to rinse my brush off here. Yeah, it should be a lot of fun, that little series I'm going to do. Oh, pardon, I just ran into my camera there. Okay, so let's go ahead and play here. Yes, Pamela is cool. I love that name. Okay, let's do, so I think how I am going to first is I'm going to go ahead and go into my yellow here. As you can see, I always put into my palette a little lighter combination, so about 75% maybe water, 25% of the pigment, because we can always go darker. And let's just start. I'm going to be working wet in wet, or damp in damp. Oh, you joined, Kirsten. Yeah, I think Kirsten. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my first gladiola pointing up, or daffodil pointing upwards. So what I'll do first is create that little trumpet shape. So point using the side of my brush, I'm holding my brush sideways, coming down, and then just using the tip of my brush, light pressure, to kind of shape it out. I'm dabbing my brush in my water just a tiny bit, tap, 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 and now we're going to come out with those petals. So this one is kind of to the side, so we might not see all the petals. So point, press, point. There's that combination stroke. And then we've got one right here, point, press, coming out.
8 round brush?
8 round. This is an 8 round. Yes, this is mine, but we'll link that Princeton for you down below. And then kind of coming from the side here, point, press. I'm opening up that belly and coming in. And then this one right here is just going to be kind of like that, because we're only seeing the front of it. And then we've got one more coming behind here. So what's going to, I always try to paint my flowers, like find what is recognizable about that flower. And that's what I'm going to add in here. So what's recognizable to me is that trumpet shape. And then I've got that little bit of orange, but I don't want to have too much liquid on my brush, because otherwise it's really going to go everywhere. So I'm going to barely get some on my brush. I tapped it all off. And I'm just going to go around the edges here and even let that soak in a bit.
Somebody asked if we can try to adjust the lighting for glare. That doesn't throw you off.
I don't know how to adjust the lighting. I don't want it to be too dark.
Nope.
Turn off that light there. Hold on, guys. Let's see if we can do something about that. I mean, the paint is wet, so it's kind of hard for it not to be shiny in any kind of light.
How about that? Well, that might be better.
Okay. And then I'm just going to go into the bottom here and kind of tap in. Again, I don't want too much paint on my brush, so I'm actually going to rinse that off. Tap it off, so it's kind of a thirsty brush, and now I can go in and move that around just a bit. There we go. Tap it off on my paper towel. And there we go. So we've got kind of that gladiola look in there. And then I'll tap in just a tiny bit right here at the base of these petals. With that same orange, I'm actually using a vermilion. Maybe a little bit right there. And now let's go ahead and go in. If you did want to soften this edge right here, you could just take a damp brush and push and pull right around the edge. And that'll kind of soften that edge up. And then let's go ahead and create our first stem. So I'm going to go back into that green. I'm using a sap green. That felt like a real springtimey. Hey, Tina, how are you? And Kim. Aw, thanks, Kim. Yeah, they said it'll depend on the interest on them, whether they for sure bring them back or not. And it would be most likely in the summer sometime. So I've got that pink paint on here. Hi, Virginia. Thank you, you guys. How sweet. I love my brushes. They just make me happy. And I'm just going to go in and, you know what? I think what I'll do, let's go into the yellow first. Let me back up just a second here. Pick up some of that yellow and pointing my brush towards the center of my little daffodil, I'm just going to come down a bit. Now I'm going to add that green in. So I've rinsed my brush, tapped it off, went back into the green, and now we can create our, I don't think, Ray, have we grown daffodils?
Have we grown them?
Have we grown them?
Yeah,
Oh, we have.
Yeah.
Oh, why don't I remember that? And then just tapping in a bit, because I was trying to think, I don't remember them, but Ray kind of, he's our real, I love gardening as well, but he's really good at moving them around and pruning them and giving them that love. Okay, let's go on to our second daffodil here. And this one, I'm going to have that trumpet shape come out kind of to the right. Hi, Bella Kelly. Oh, I know, Tina, you need to get back in there, girl, even if it's 15 minutes here and there. And I'm going to make the trumpet a little bit smaller. So just using the tip of my brush like that. And then maybe the other side there. And now we'll go in and start those petals. So point, press, there we go. And you see how much white space I'm leaving there? Point, press, that one kind of coming down behind there. Point, press, come around. And one right here. Now, my leaves are, I'm sorry, petals are quite large, so, you know, make them how you want them. 1, 2, 3, 4, they typically have 6. Point, press, like that. And then maybe we see one just peeking out here. But I left some white space in between them so you could see that. I also, by the way, I believe we have a daffodil tutorial on here that goes from painting them all the way through, drawing them, pardon me, all the way through painting them. And then I'm going to go into the middle again, just with a tiny bit of that yellowy orange, and I'll add some orange here too. So picking up, I believe this is vermilion. Tap, tap, tap. And I'll go right into the bottom here. Now I'm not gonna panic there. It's getting a little bit bigger. I can pick some of that up. And then just outline the surrounding. So I wash my brush. Now it's a thirsty brush, and I can go in and pick some of that up if it was too much. Like I said, I always just try and get that feel, what's recognizable about that gladiola. Now let's go ahead and create that stem. So loading my brush. Oh, wonderful, Virginia. Yeah, it's a really cool medium. It's basically the only medium I've ever used. Oh, how fun, Kim. They're just coming up, huh? So let's create our stem here. And in a minute will be my favorite part, which is painting those long, beautiful leaves that we just talked about. And then let's do maybe one little bloom here, one little bud. something like that. Rinse off my brush. So fun seeing some of you that have joined on Patreon, which by the way, you guys, there's a free level in Patreon, and it's kind of cool too, because you get to see a lot of cool stuff there that might not be here on YouTube. As well, you get a discount for those tutorial kits, which is really cool. If you want to purchase some of those, you get like 3 for, I think it's $5. So you almost get one free. All right, let's do those long, beautiful, flowy leaves. So going back into my green here, tap, tap, tap. I want to keep a little bit more liquid on there though, because, thank you, LJD from Spain, another place. Bonjour, Brigitte. I took French for over a year, you guys, and I'm so sorry, Brigitte. It's such a beautiful language. I wanted to be able to pronounce it in that very French-like way. Oh, good, Kirsten. So here is going to be the first petal. Point. Now I'm really pressing into the tip of my brush, coming straight up. It's still wide, that compound stroke. Now we start coming up, and we're just going to have it hide behind this little flower here. Now I can tap into the bottom, point press. Let's do another one here. Point press. I'm almost using a bit of the side of my brush too. And then I just use the tip of my brush to kind of form out the petals. I'm going to tap in here, a bit of that darker green. Let's do another one, point press. There we go. This is so relaxing too, you guys. We have Italy, Spain. Oh yeah, that was Ray writing that. So cool how we can kind of play together all over the world, isn't it? Who would have ever guessed that, you guys? I'm going to do the other leaf here. So let me get a little bit more of that green in my palette. And let's create another leaf here. I think this one I will actually tuck behind that one. So let's make the mix a little bit lighter, more water. So probably 75% water, 25% pigment. And let's go behind here, point press. I'll just tuck it and have it pop back out. And look at that. This is the power of values, you guys. For beginners, this is such a great way to create that interest in your flowers, is using those values. So I've got this darker one. Now watch if I make this one even darker. And I do that by adding more pigment. So now I'm about 80% pigment, 20% water. So I'm going to darken this, point press, and watch it just pop out in front. See that? Isn't that so cool? I love the power of values. And we'll go back in here. Let's do one more here, point press, and I'll just tuck that behind. I'm going to take a little bit of that pigment off. There we go. And because this one is darker, it's going to appear like it's in front more. Now we could add in one more really light one in the background. And at this point, we can glaze over these too. So let me show you that. Let's pick up like a kind of a yellow ochre in my palette here. I believe it's this one. This is a new palette for me. This is a really pretty color too. It looks brown, but it really isn't so brown. Be a little careful with yellow ochre when you use it. It can be quite dark and can take over. So what I might just do with this is create a bit of a shadow down under here. So I've got some of that on my brush, but not too much, and it's very light value. I do have tutorials on poppies. Oh, looks like Ray sent you one. There you go. I also have a tutorial kit on those. Hello, Nikitia. Okay, so I'm going to just shadow this side in with a bit of that yellow ochre, just like that. And maybe we can even come out here. Now, if I want to lighten those, I just wash and rinse my brush, tap it off, and I can go in and just soften that line so it's not quite so harsh. And there you go. It just adds a tiny bit of interest there, and I can even go back into that vermilion and tap that in there like that. See how that just created so much pop? There you go. Philadelphia. Hi, Louise. What a fun place to, huh? Lois. Okay, Lois. You look like Louise to me. Okay, here we go. So I'm going into that vermilion one more time, and let's add a little bit more of that orangey right here. Actually, here first, just barely tapping in. Like I said, if you ever get too much, just wash in your brush and pick it up, just like that. Then I'm just using the tip of my brush to create a little interest there. And we're about done. I might add a tiny bit of that orange right here. Kind of interesting. And maybe we should do one more gladiola up there, just because we're all here. So we'll add one more on here. Let's, of course, one that's face on is going to be the easiest, right? So point, press, we'll do one face on, head on, I guess I should say. There we go. I'm turning mine just a little bit, some of that yellow. One, two, three, four, five. And then once that dries just a tiny bit, I'll go into just the center and we'll create that ruffly edge there. But let's get the stem in. So coming down, making sure your stem is pointing up towards the middle of your flower. And I'm going to go into the center just a tiny bit with just the littlest bit, not too much water for that center, and start making that ruffly edge. I'm going to give that a quick little shot with my dryer. There we go. And now I should be able to go in there without it spreading too much. With just the tip of my brush, and we can do, so it's still a little bit wet. But this is what I'm talking about. You know, when you paint your flowers, just do something that is going to make people think, oh, that's a gladiola, because they know that ruffly edge. I'm adding just a tiny bit more.
Daffodil.
Huh?
Daffodil.
What did I say? Gladiola
Gladiola.
again? Oh my gosh.
You better explain that Ray's whispering in your ear.
Ray's whispering to me, daffodil, daffodil. I think I called it a gladiola again. Thank you, Ray. So going in here, of course, the head-on one is always the easiest. And there you guys go. I might just, what's so fun about watercolors is always, you know, working in layers. So I'll just darken that up again because, as you know, watercolors dries much lighter than it originally goes on. All right, guys, I hope that was fun. So great as always seeing you guys here. I hope you give this little one a try. It's a pretty easy one to do with brush strokes, but keep in mind, if you would like, I do have a full tutorial on this that actually, I'm just going in, by the way, with some of that yellow ochre, just a little bit on my brush, and adding in some lines just for interest. I do have a whole tutorial on drawing these, using those guidelines, and then painting them if you'd like a little bit more detail. But I sure love creating these flowers just with brush strokes. I think it's kind of fun. And then once this dries one more time, I'll probably go in there and put just a tiny bit more of the bright red in there. Oh, good, Kirsten. Hi, Maureen. Gladiola. I know. Why have I got gladiola stuck in my head? I do not know. Oh, there's the daffodil tutorial. Thanks, Ray. All right, you guys. Well, that was so fun. Make sure to check out, again, Patreon, because there is a free level there and you still get all the fun things. I am going to be sharing something on florology. I'm working on color theory right now. And try out these gladiolas, guys. It is the birthday flower, I believe, this month. Oh my gosh, did I say gladiola again? What is wrong with me? Daffodil. I don't know why I can't remember that. My goodness. All right, everybody. Hello, Valerie. Gladiola. I guess I better, because my mind sure wants to do those. Okay, happy Sunday, happy spring. I couldn't be more happy about that. And I will see you all soon. You're welcome, Tina. Bye, Pamela. Bye, Maureen.